everyone. How are you?
How you doing?
Can you all hear us? Give us a thumbs up. That's great. Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on cue again at Center Stage. For those of you who don't know, and I shall use my whip next time because you should by now. My name is Daniela Crankshaw.
And I'm Grant Crankshaw, her partner in crime, and we'll be hosting you this evening.
Absolutely.
Thanks very much. In 3 days' time, it will be exactly 9 months since we were shut down by Rona. But we're not complaining. It's just that she keeps sticking around, outstaying her welcome. I mean, she is so socially inept, right? We really want to take this moment and thank you all for sticking with us on the small screens. It's not where we expected to be, but hey, we built a theatre, not a studio. And don't forget, we are actors, we need a stage, we crave an audience, and we'll find a way of performing for you anyhow, anyway, and any time.
Yes, we will.
You are not getting off that easy. Apart from missing all your tushies in our seats, for obvious reasons, we especially miss our live audiences and your contribution to every performance. The way an audience reacts to the actions on stage directly impacts the entire experience for actors and audiences alike. And that is the one thing that you cannot achieve in film. The theatre is an incredible space. I mean, think of it. The audience sits elbow to elbow with strangers and almost unknowingly teams up with the actors to complete the experience. Together we go through a unique journey. Every night is different because every night the audience is different, and that is where the magic lies. But let's not trash the small screen entirely, for it has been our savior during this time. We are marvelous creatures and we can adapt to this situation. It has forced us to be more accepting of the limitations. So we thank you all for sticking with us and for your continued support and for accepting us on the small screen. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and we hope you will be able to sit your sweet tushies back into our seats so that we can engage with you face to face.
Now, some theatre news. Save the date, Sunday, 27th of December at 7 p.m. We will be repeating our highly successful live music online event at Center Stage, this time with the appropriate theme of endings and beginnings. Also, Kerem House in Tel Aviv is turning the tables on us, and they'll be interviewing myself and Grant on Kerem Talks on Tuesday, the 8th of December at 8:15. It'll be streamed live on Facebook, so please feel free to watch that or create watch parties and join the fun.
And don't forget to check out our Theatre Skills for Business, a set of courses which can be provided online or in person, in which we provide you with the theatre skills that will make you a better presenter, commentator, and team player. You can find more information on our website, centerstageisrael.com. And for those of you who've been here before, please feel free to pay what you can using the link in the chat. As always, we're committed to keeping you involved, entertained, and connected. Stay up to date with all our events by following us on Facebook and sign up on our website. Thank you.
Yes, and now let us give a very warm Center Stage welcome to our very, very special guest this week, all the way from Minnesota. Robert Dorfman and Avi Aharoni. Hi, guys. I'm going to put you up here and say hi. Unmute yourself. Hold on. Let me do this. And hey.
Hello.
And pin and add pin. Now there's all three of us. Yay. Welcome.
Welcome, guys.
A bit of background. I think it's important that people know that Avi, Grant, and I actually met while he was in Israel, and we were fortunate enough to be cast in The Fantastics.
Yes.
If you remember that, Avi. And I'm hoping that we'll have some people around to say hi to you afterwards from that show.
Yes.
I'm hoping. And
Avi,
also in
All My Sons.
Oh, my son. Yeah.
Avi played George. Our best looking George, I think, to date.
I don't want to say it, but you said it. So.
Fantastic.
Oh, that's great.
Since then, we've actually kept in touch with Avi, and every time he's come to Israel, we've managed to meet up. And he is, let me tell you, he is an exceptional actor, and he has done so well in his hometown in Minnesota, and racking up some really impressive theater credits there, Avi. Amazing. Let me also give a short introduction to Robert. Robert Dorfman's career spans Broadway shows, including The Lion King on Broadway. Hello, am I jealous? Yes. Okay, To Be or Not to Be. Social Security, directed by Mike Nichols. I mean, hello. Wow, okay. And then a lot of off-Broadway productions, Hamlet, Debuk, among others, a multitude of Shakespearean plays, contemporary plays in regional theaters. Also appeared in films and TV series, including Boardwalk Empire, which is from HBO, if I'm not mistaken. Fool's Fire, It Could Happen to You. Is that the one with Nicolas Cage?
No, that was a Julie Taymor film.
Ah, okay. And also numerous syndicated TV shows, including LA Law, Murphy Brown, Sybil, Mad About You, and I could go on and on and on and on. So
Please
we are
do.
really thrilled to have you here. It's amazing. No, just because you're such an incredible, I mean, you've done, wow,
Well,
that's all I can say. And 5 years ago, you started directing with Minnesota Jewish Theater, but we'll get to that. So first question.
Yes. Avi,
You're on the spot.
Oh God.
when did you know that you wanted to be an actor?
Oh, the first show I ever did, I was 12 years old, and I signed up for musical theater summer camp. Like I had seen my friends like do like shows at the Jewish Community Center, and for some reason I was like, I can do that. So I had my mom sign me up for musical theater summer camp, and almost like immediately I was like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. And I've just never been able to like shake that. It was pretty instantaneous.
Wow.
Amazing. Robert, was it the same for you? What made you become an actor?
Well, as a kid, I had a lot of imaginary friends, and I was a little lonely.
As an adult.
Yeah. But when I was in college, my English professor asked me to help backstage. She had designed costumes for the spring musical, and she needed someone to help get the guys into their finale tuxedos for 1920s musical. And I watched the show from the wings every night, and I was smitten. It was just the most elegant and wonderful thing I'd ever seen. So I auditioned for the next play, and I've been going ever since.
Amazing.
Wow.
It's amazing how once you sort of really get there and stand on stage and you suddenly understand, wow, this is what I meant to do. This is where I'm meant to be. It's such a strong, very profound feeling. I'm just going to keep letting people in as they come in. Sorry.
That's right. And the array of dysfunctional skills that we have all gathered together and are appropriate for the stage.
Agree completely. So, Robert, your experience really spans across theater, film, TV. What is your preferred medium and why?
I've been very lucky. I've been at it now 50 years. This year is my 50th year as a professional actor. But, TV and film is fun. You make a little money, you meet movie stars, TV stars, there's a lot of people fussing over you. You get a little,
the trailer, the food.
Yeah. They light it around your understudies. But the theater is really my love, my first love. I always wanted to be an actor, and I always wanted to be a classical actor. I like theater that is about language, that is, like you say, about ideas, as well as entertaining, of course. But there's nothing like the live experience and the communion of the actor with the audience over the ideas and the writing of brilliant playwrights.
Agree. Couldn't agree more. Amazing. I actually think I saw a video of you doing one of those classics, the Merchant of Venice, Shylock.
Oh, yes, that's right.
That was really outstanding. I mean, if you want to see it, guys who are listening, it's on YouTube. Just look it up. Really amazing monologue that Robert does there.
No, I was, here in Minnesota, we have one of the United States great theaters, the Guthrie Theater, It was built originally by Tyrone Guthrie. And about 20 years ago, they built a new building on the river, an extraordinary complex. And Joe Dowling was the artistic director then. And the first Shakespeare they did was The Merchant of Venice. And I met Joe in New York. I was living in New York then. And he invited me to play Shylock. And it was a thrill of a lifetime.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. But you've done a lot of Shakespearean roles. That's it's quite a feat for an actor. I mean, it's, you know, Shakespeare's always that big kind of goal that we all have.
Yeah.
And you've done a lot of it.
Yeah, there's a reason why he's been around for over 400 years. The writing is extraordinary. And also the more you do it, it's like speaking a foreign language. You know, the more you do it, Shakespeare has a surprisingly limited lexicon. So when you learn all his words and the way he uses words, it gets easier each time. But I've done, I don't know, maybe 20 Shakespeare productions.
Amazing. Amazing. I think I've done all of 2. But that's great.
I'm going to flick back to Avi. You've performed with many Minnesotan theatre companies. What is the bit of a background? Give us a background on the theatre scene there where you are.
Oh.
Yeah, because I understand it's quite a bustling theatre scene.
Yeah, it's very vibrant. I think so I've never lived in New York, but from what I understand, and Robert, you can tell me if I'm wrong, New York seems to be like if you were to get a job, that's your job for like however long, but you're not going to work in between anything, right? Between jobs or gigs. Here, you can constantly work. It just might not ever be enough to have that be your sole income. So we have a lot, like Robert said, we have the Guthrie, we have the best children's theater in the country. We have like the best dinner theater in the country. So we got really big theaters, and then we have a lot of small, medium theaters. So you really can, and I've been lucky to just consistently work. It's just, you know, as opposed to other markets, it's never or rarely, I've been lucky a couple times, rarely like the sole income that you can support yourself with, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It does. I mean, theater, who makes a sole income from theater? It's
right.
It's the curse we live in. We have to do it, and yet we need to sort of survive somehow as well. And I yearn for the days of the Medici family. What can I say? Now, you met, both of you met when Robert was casting for the world premiere production of a play called Shawl by a Jewish American playwright, Sheldon Wolfe. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Now, Robert, tell us a little bit about that play, and specifically what it was about Avi that made you cast him in that play. And I'm putting you on the spot of it here, I'm sure.
Shawl is a wonderful play. It's an 8-character play about a synagogue somewhere in America that is dilapidated and falling apart, and the last vestiges of its congregation. So 6 of the 8 characters are 70 and over. And they're trying to hold on desperately to this building, which is falling down around their head. There are 2 young characters. The male character is an enigmatic fellow who just, for some reason, finds his identity and his belonging there among these older people. But because of his youth and his quick-wittedness, he's often put in charge of doing things. I had just seen Avi in a play at the Minnesota Jewish Theater called Natasha and the Coat. Is that correct?
Yep.
And he was wonderful in it, needless to say. Honestly, we had a terrific cast. But the first person I cast without even auditioning was Avi. He has a great presence. He was perfect for the role. He's fun, he's smart, everything you want in an actor. And the added plus was that he was a Jewish man. And
now that you've blown Avi's head up so much from all these...
Oh God, Robert, stop. Keep going.
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, so we had a great success with the play, and he was terrific in it. Yeah.
Well, and I will say, like, Robert and I didn't really know each other. We met in the lobby after Natasha and the Code, and I specifically remember meeting you after a show. I come out and you're like, "Oh, hey, I'm Robert. Great job." And I knew who Robert was, obviously. And I kind of like got flustered and I'm like, "Oh, cool." And I like got too scared and went back into the theater and waited for him to leave. And then like a couple months later, the artistic director was like, "Oh, Robert Dorfman, do you know him?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know of him." She's like, "Well, he wants to just pre-cast you in this show." And then I was lucky enough to sit in on some of those auditions. And I think that's where we really got to know each other, which was, a wonderful experience to be on the other side of the table for once.
Absolutely. So, but Robert, right after that, you didn't go straight into Avi's production. You directed a Nutgov's "Oh My God," which is very funny because I'm inquiring about rights to do it at my theater when things open up again.
Yeah, it's it reads. It's very intellectual in the reading, but in the doing, it's a great audience favorite. It really lifts off the page. But actually, between Shul and "Oh My God," I did another play, a solo play, David Hare's Via Dolorosa, which is about David Hare's journal of his trip to Israel and his reflections on the Israeli-Palestinian situation.
What sort of made you decide to go sort of towards the Jewish theater?
Well, that's a really interesting question. I'll give you the short answer, but I grew up in New York City and lived for 20 years in Los Angeles after that. And those are two very large American cities, and being Jewish in those cities is not an unusual thing. Even non-Jews are Jewish there. Everyone's schlepping across town and what have you. But when I came here to do Merchant of Venice, being in the Midwest, which I will say respectfully has a great history of anti-Semitism, I felt my otherness for the first time in my life as an actor and as a man. And so I sought out the artistic director of the Minnesota Jewish Theater Company, Barbara Brooks, and introduced myself. I said, "I'm an actor, I'm a Jewish man, and we should know each other." And she responded. And I think I just needed to find a Jewish family. I shared my ideas and my the qualities of theater that I really appreciate and want to be part of.
Yeah.
Incredible.
I'm sure it's a little less traumatic than moving to Israel.
We can tell you that.
Just a little bit. Amazing. So I want to move on to Operation Immigration. It's Avi's story, and it's absolutely fascinating. And as I said to you before people came in, we had the pleasure of watching it last night. It's a story about family, old traditions, hard work, assimilation, and personal identity. So I just want to share with you a short preview of Operation Immigration before we really get into it. So here we go. I'm hoping that you can hear. There we go. Let's see if we can do that. Oh, that was things we missed.
There we go.
There we go. Where is the trailer? There.
Now, I can't speak for all Jews. I mean, that's why we have Jeff Goldblum. But I know for me, my insecurities fall between the cracks of this is how I feel and this is how I'm viewed. And oftentimes, this is how I feel is influenced by this is how I'm viewed, and vice versa. And trust me, I mean, there's a lot of insecurities. But in order to understand my own identity, I had to find out where it all began. I had to learn about my immigrant father and the life he had before I knew him. This is our story.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Now, Avi, your story is it's incredible. Well, your parents' story is incredible. And I love how how the way that you tell it. But you've never written a production before, am I right? You've never written a play before.
I wrote one other. I've written a lot of like sketches and things, and then I wrote one other big thing, like an interactive play. So it was a half improvised but half scripted structure. But this was definitely like the first, biggest, most intimidating, densest thing I've ever written. Yeah.
Amazing. How did you decide to actually write it? I mean, we all have stories, and especially in Israel, you have fascinating stories. What was the what's the word I'm looking for? Impetus to really write this, to get this out?
Yeah, it was over. The idea had always been like in my head, especially after my dad passed. I kept learning more and more about his life. Like as a kid, you hear things, but it never really registers. But then, as stories get told after a passing, it's like eventually it's just like, oh my God, like there's so much there. So I had always had the idea, but I just never took the step. And then really it was the last time I came to Israel 2 years ago, which we grabbed lunch. I truthfully watched while I was there John Leguizamo's one-man Broadway show, A Latin History for Morons.
Yes.
And I finished it. I'm like, I want to do that. Like I want to do that. So like immediately, like the next day or two, I go to my aunt's house with my notebook and just a pencil. And I'm like, just tell me everything. Like from the beginning to, when my dad left Israel, like give me every single detail, story, anecdote that you can remember. So yeah, that's what happened. For like 3 hours, I was just kind of back and forth. And then as soon as I came back to the States, I just started transferring it from like my notebook to the computer and just kind of going through, and that was kind of the beginning of it all.
Amazing. Well, we know we kind of, it's hard to think of doing it as a one-man show. God and I have our own show, but it's the two of us, and doing it on your own. I mean, that's a challenge in and of itself. So kol hakavod to you, as they say. Yeah. And I was interested because there's parts in the story that it's hard to believe that it's not that long ago. I mean, you talk about your grandfather in Iran, and the challenges and the conditions that you describe are unbelievable. Really, it's hard to believe that in I'm going to say in this day and age, but it wasn't in this day and age. But still, it wasn't like the Middle Ages or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But for those things to happen, how have the audience reacted to that? I mean, have they understood? Do they understand it? Do they really internalize that this is something that sort of potentially might go on still today? Maybe not in Iran, or maybe in Iran or other places in the world.
Yeah, I think Robert and I, in the development of it, were really careful, very, very, very careful about like we knew that there was topics and issues that could be difficult to grasp, especially to a Western audience, a Midwestern audience, that either may be offensive or and they're not. We had to make sure they were never my personal beliefs, but this was the fact. These were the stories. This is what happened. And I think, we didn't, there wasn't as much anger or offense taken that we kind of thought might be. And I think that.
Oh, I'm surprised that you thought that there would be anger and offense. I thought that they just might not quite sort of get it.
Oh, I think they get it. I think they get it, especially because we have, the topic of immigration is huge here in the States, and people who come here for salvation, what are they fleeing from? So, instead of a big topic of immigration, we really are just zeroing in on one story of one person.
Yeah.
And I think it allows people to just understand it differently, more personally.
Right.
You know? And I had a lot of people, especially when we did it the first time in the Fringe Festival, like in a theater. It was the first round of it. A lot of people with children of immigrants really were, to me they were the ones who like would give me a hug after the show, and I wouldn't know them, and they'd be like I get it. Like, no, I've never seen my parents' story on that stage before, you know? And I think it really, it hit home for a lot of people, whether you're a child of a deceased parent or a child of an immigrant parent.
Right.
You know?
I think I should just give a little bit of background to the people to fill in the details, because the people watching are just like, Operation Immigration is really Avi's father's story. So it sort of talks about his father having been born in Iran, married in Iran, and I won't give away the details and the secrets and the whole sort of things, but eventually making Aliyah to Israel, meeting his mother, with all the family things that are going on, and working really, really hard, and understanding that, you know, immigrants at that time from Iran, I think there was potentially a lot of stigma as well attached to that, coming from the Sephardi side of things, or the Arab countries, as it were. And it's really a beautiful, he tells it so beautifully, this whole journey that he goes on, that he takes you on, of his father's family, his grandfather, his father, and him. So, and there's amazing things that happen on the way. So, and I urge you, if you can, and we'll talk about it later when the show goes on, to see it, because it's beautiful, and it's beautifully told, and it's surprising, and it's what are all the adjectives that I can think of. But so that's just sort of really a bit of background.
Yeah. Robert, I was interested in finding out how Avi pitched the play to you, his play to you, or had you?
Or had you spoken about it?
You'd spoken about it.
It was sort of at the end of the run of Shul. He sort of sheepishly came to me and said he'd been sort of running. Would I be? He sent me this avalanche of pages. And in the center of it was a very heartfelt and important story about not only his father, but an immigrant, and you know, as Americans, we are by definition a country of immigrants. If you're not a member of the indigenous people, you're an immigrant, whether you came here generations ago or last week, as we say in the play. And so, I don't want to get political, but in America, we've been enduring a period of very difficult politics and harsh realities that have been brought forward by their.
I think immigration is a hot topic kind of anywhere, Europe, America.
But at the time that we did the Fringe Festival, we were going through an embarrassing time in America, where asylum seekers at our southern border, just over to Mexico, were being separated, children from their parents, and imprisoned in these cages. I won't go into it further, but it seemed to a lot of people very anti-American and anti-human. And this was happening at the time that we did the play at the Fringe. So it has amplified the story of one immigrant, but it really was about all those immigrants, and it just reverberated off the theater walls.
It was a very timely piece.
That's right.
And very relevant to today.
And then when we did it more recently, the film, The Ugly Head of Racial Injustice in America, which is also part of our history, was rearing its ugly head, as it should. So we expanded the piece to include the idea of racial identity and economic parity.
Right. And that kind of resonates here in Israel, because there's, you know, as much as we we want to say we're a melting pot, like Dr. Isabel Berman, who's with us tonight. She has a book on that. That we come from all different places, but there is racism in Israel as well, and it needs to be addressed. And what greater way? I mean, this is what theater is here to do. It's here to serve as a mirror to society and say, hey, what's going on? What are we thinking? And showing people stories that will resonate. So that was.
Just to show those people who have yet to see it, it's also peppered with what I describe as Jewish wit. We, as a Jewish people, we're wanderers, and we've learned to laugh at our diversity, and there's great humor in it as well.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's great. Now, whose idea was it? You talked about the Fringe Festival.
Yeah.
So who decided that was going to be your platform?
The Fringe?
The Fringe, yeah.
So even before I had Robert signed on, I applied to be in it. I had never produced, I had never written, I had never done a one-man show. It was just the worst thing I'd ever decided to do. And it was a really ridiculous idea. So I had gotten in, and so by the time, and I knew that I wanted to do it. So I just really got lucky with Robert, who was available and was, we were getting close at that point. But I think, Robert, we knew that like the Fringe was always going to be the first step. Like we knew we wanted to get it in front of an audience and really see how it played. And, to our surprise,
how did it play?
What?
How did it play?
Sorry, you go on,
No,
Robert.
I just wanted to say also that I had never done a Fringe festival. I had only been living in the Twin Cities for about 8 years at that point, whereas Avi had done 7 or 8 of them. So he knew his way around, and it seemed like the perfect venue for a first try. It had certain restrictions because it can't, at the Fringe, you can't go over 55 minutes. You have to have a very simple design scheme, something that be moved in and out in the venue in 10 minutes.
You have 3 hours to tech it.
But some critics who usually don't cover the Fringe came out to cover us, and we got these glowing reviews. And before we knew it, we were selling out, and we got what they call the Golden Lanyard Award for.
Yep.
Yes.
Let me show a picture of you getting not getting this, but the 2 of you with your golden lanyard. So I'm sure that this is something that you are very proud of. And why is turning the next one? No. Oh dear. Oh dear.
The cake looks good.
It does, doesn't it?
Good, yeah.
All these technical difficulties. You see, we're not a studio. I have to find a way to do this.
Anyway, we got an award for attendance, and suddenly we also.
Yeah.
Yeah, and suddenly we got offers to show it elsewhere.
Yeah.
Until the Minnesota Jewish Theater picked it up for this season.
Right.
And then the pandemic stopped us in our tracks, and Barbara Brooks, our artistic director, raised money to have us film it.
Okay, this is really not happening. Damn.
I'm trying to get out of the full screen.
No. Okay, I will share it later. That's not a problem. There's you and Avi and Robert together standing with the golden lanyard, and that's
here. Yeah.
That's amazing, amazing. So
and so this version of it is 70 minutes long, and it's slightly expanded, both political, but also it has more of the story of Avi and who he is in America.
I was gonna, I was gonna ask you. There must have been a difference. I think both for you, Robin, and for Avi, in terms of taking this as a theater production, and then really putting it on as a due to COVID and theaters not being open, you had to pivot, like we all have had to, and decided to film it. And it must have had its own challenges because
Yes, I mean, we had to keep a crew safe. You know, we were filming outdoors. We were all masked except for Avi. Luckily, because it was a one-man show, we didn't have the added problem of actors speaking to each other. But it was difficult. But we also didn't want to make it into a film. We wanted to make it a film of a theater piece. So to find the right tone. And also we were just lucky because of the pandemic. You know, Minnesota is an extraordinary place. It's for the size of the state, it's maybe the second largest theater center in America, short of New York. And it also has an amazing community of theater artists. And we were lucky in that because of the pandemic, everyone was unemployed because all the theaters had shuttered themselves. So we were able to get literally the best crew in town.
Wow.
We got a dramaturg who she is amazing, Joe Holcomb, and our cinematographer, our sound guy. I mean, everybody was so like they're top of their field.
That's right.
Amazing.
We were able to film it in 2.5 days.
Amazing.
I
So,
quite enjoyed the garden set. I thought it was very, you kept jumping in different bushes and stuff. I was quite taken with it.
Who was on the board of the theater who donated that locale.
you know, I think you used that
Lovely.
space really, really cleverly in terms of like going between scenes. So that was really very, very interesting.
We had a great cinematographer, Ryan Mellon. Yeah.
The silver lining in this cloud of COVID, you had the right
Yeah.
people, the good people. I mean, that makes a difference, doesn't it?
And also Avi and I had now done it. This was our 3rd or 4th iteration of the play. So we didn't have to, I remember speaking to the cinematographer, I said, if you get this on camera, I will make sure he's camera ready. You know, I have no doubt that, you know, we had to make it a film performance as opposed to the size of a theater performance. But Avi was, you know, just chomping at the bit ready.
Of course he was.
Terrifying. It was terrifying because we didn't really have too many rehearsals. So I had to have an hour and 10 minutes of speech memorized when I showed up, essentially.
Avi, it's called acting, darling.
It was awful. I don't like it one bit, okay?
But what do you do on stage when you had to learn all this text? I mean, that's what you do.
You have 4 weeks of rehearsals to learn that text.
But you'd be doing this. You've got no excuse.
No, but we added a good 25 minutes to this round. And that was another thing that I really found was interesting because of COVID is Robert, and Joe Holcomb, our dramaturg, we would Zoom once every week or two and kind of go line by line, sentence by sentence of what was. And then I'd get notes. I'd do my highlighting stuff. I would go and I'd write more or tweak more. I'd add things and then we'd go back. And it was really that for a good couple months until we had the final. And we didn't really finalize the script until about 2 weeks before we started filming.
Right.
It's also, as a director, having a relationship with Avi as the writer and Avi as the actor.
I was going to ask you that. How was that relationship for you, Robert? Because
how was that relationship for you?
The writer, Avi the writer is a mean drunk. Avi the actor is a cream puff. You know, I mean, my job was to separate the two. You know, sometimes he'd say, well, what if let me explain. When you see the film, we filmed it in very long sections, 10, 15-minute scenes, which is part of the beauty of the cinematography. But as a result of that, if we're 10 minutes into a scene and he flubs a line, you got to go back. We never had to go back. That's how prepared Avi was. But I kept assuring him that if he paraphrases or does go up, he's also the playwright and he should just call it a rewrite.
That's a good one.
I was able to get him to understand how powerful he is as an actor and that he doesn't have to overwrite.
Right.
Overwrite.
I mean, look at that face on film. It's a movie star face.
Well,
I've guessing better.
No, we love you, Avi. It's okay. But now, how did the production get picked up by the Minnesota Jewish Theater Company? Because, you went from the Fringe, and then what? I know that you've got good relationships with them, but they decided to really pick this up for their 2021 season, even though they were doing it differently. So was
That's
that
right.
something that you were?
Yeah, actually, the Fringe was so taken with our piece that they decided to produce it in the festival, and that was all set to go when the pandemic hit, and it was all canceled. But Barbara Brooks, our artistic director, came to see it at the Fringe, and she recognized immediately that it had all the elements for her theater. Two artists who had worked there before. It had Jewish content. It had political heft and the sentimental story of a father and son. So she was very anxious to produce it. We had a few offers though, so we had to wait and sort of see how things turned out. But as the pandemic closed doors, we realized, as we should have earlier, that Minnesota Jewish Theater was the best venue for our piece.
Right. Well, it's kind of your home theater, isn't it? But Avi, you actually play yourself in the show. And I'm sure you've been asked this question before, but it's always interesting for me because both Grant and I play ourselves in our show. Sort of.
Yeah.
Mutations, but that's more for comedy effect. But here, this is a serious piece, and I kind of wonder, you've got a very natural, very real style. It's not like you built a persona, or a character which you then presented. Did Robert have a hand in that?
Oh my God. Yeah. Early on in the rehearsals for the Fringe specifically, because I remember early on, I did a living room reading of it with like 10, 12 people, like writers, actors, improvisers, stand-up comedians, just all like friends that I really respected. And we did it in kind of just hours of notes afterwards. But really one thing Robert really kind of started once we were like in rehearsals, it was so difficult because Robert would be like, stop acting, stop, strip it away, stop, you're enough. And I think, as actors, we're so good at just cloaking ourselves in a character or, in a way hiding ourselves because you're trying to serve a story. But Robert wouldn't let me. He would not let me perform it by any means.
Good on you, Robert.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I know, good work for Robert. Good stuff.
Yeah, but he saw me have these insane existential crises while we were like rehearsing in his living room. And I'd be like, I can't do it, Robert. I don't know what I'm doing. I shouldn't be doing this. And then he would give me some vodka and everything would be better.
Vodka is a good effect.
I had just finished doing that David Hare solo piece. So I had an immediate self-knowledge of what it's like to act in a solo piece. So and I'm old and wise, but
wise. Let's leave it at that. Wise is good. So now, because time is moving on so quickly. Wow. So the run for the Minnesota Jewish Theater Company was in October, and now they are bringing it back by popular demand for this weekend only, the 10th to the 13th. So because my slideshow doesn't work, please tell us when those dates are.
The site is Minnesota MN Jewish Theater as R-E at the end, not E-R, company. Minnesota Jewish Theater Company. If you go to their site, they'll direct you to Operation Immigration. There are several showings over those 4 days. You sign up for a relatively small amount of cash to see a particular showing. You'll get and they will email you a link to that.
Thanks.
That's great. Avi just put that address in the chat, so please feel free to use that. And I really, really encourage you to to go onto that site and get a ticket because it's worth it. It really, really is. I think you've both have done, I mean, as much as it's, Avi's wrote it and is acting in it, but Robert, your hand is in there and you made it what it is. So, or you helped sculpture what it is in that particular medium. So kudos to you guys. You did an amazing job and it's just fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So first of all, thank you so much for your time and Operation Immigration. May it have a long life and a long run, and may you have many, many more shows. And when the doors open, please, God, you'll be able to have people in the seats watching you live again, because that really makes a performance sizzle, I'm sure. But so now we come on to our
10 questions.
10 questions. And basically this is a very short section.
Yeah.
Whatever comes into your mind, that's what you'll both answer the same question. We'll let you know who answers first. And it's just really short, what comes to mind, just so that we can get to know how your weird and wonderful brains work. So
I'll ask the first question.
To whom?
To Robert.
To Robert.
What is your idea of perfect happiness?
A good meal and a good play.
Oh.
There's my man,
Avi.
Avi.
Oh man.
Don't think about it. Give me your first answer.
Good people inside of a theater.
Good people inside of a theater. I like that. There's very good people inside of a theater. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Avi, what's your favorite word? No, what's your least favorite word?
Least
favorite word.
Oh, saliva.
Saliva. Okay.
Saliva is kind of it's kind of gross.
Okay. Robert?
My least favorite word is no.
Oh, no.
Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah. Question number 3. Robert, which person do you most admire?
Living or dead?
Living or dead?
I would say William Shakespeare. I'd
Mm.
like to sit down and have dinner with that one. If he ever really existed. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Avi?
Andy Kaufman.
You're the second person who said that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to have dinner with him.
Cool.
You look
Okay.
The 4th question?
Yep.
Avi? What is, Avi, what do you consider the most overrated virtue?
It's a toughie.
Oh God, what?
What's a virtue?
No. Oh, can Robert go first?
Robert can go first.
The most overrated virtue, I think, is modesty.
Okay.
Yeah, you're in New York. That makes sense. In Minnesota, we love modesty.
It's overrated for you as well, Avi, or what?
Honestly, through my work with Robert, he's really pushed me to not be so humble and self-deprecating, to an extent. So yeah, I think I would agree with that one. Definitely.
Okay, I've just had a comment here from Gershom. He says, Avi, good luck eating while Andy Kaufman would speak. That's a great one. That's a great one. Avi, now I'm going to put you on the spot. On what occasion do you lie?
Do I lie?
Yes.
I feel like probably it might be a technicality, but lying by omission. I might not always tell a whole truth in order to save someone's feelings.
Okay. Okay, Robert?
Well, I guess like many, I lie when I'm too embarrassed to tell the truth.
Okay.
Yeah, that's very good. That's very good. Question number 6. Robert, what natural gift would you most like to possess?
That I don't already have? Modesty.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would love to be able to walk into a dinner, a party, sit down at the piano and play it.
Oh,
Yes. Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Avi?
Baking without being like right on a recipe. I just want to be able to bake and have it be beautiful and gorgeous and taste good.
Oh, okay. That's a
Okay.
first. That's a
that is
definite
a
first. Avi, what is your most treasured possession?
Oh, I oh God. I don't, nothing. I mean, I don't have any emotional attachment to anything I own. Sorry.
Okay. No, it's good. It's fine. It doesn't have to be a thing, but
Trevor White.
it's all good.
My
Robert,
mom is
Your mom?
not a possession, but
is something you have. Oh, I accept
Yeah,
that.
she's in my life.
life. Robert, what about you? Do you have things you treasure, possessions?
Well, people aside, I think as the years go by, the thing that I keep crating up and taking from place to place to place are books and photos.
You see books. I'm a total book person.
Yeah.
He doesn't get that. I'm just like, you cannot throw away my books. When we made Aliyah, he was just like, let's get this whole library and throw it away. And I'm like, no. So I can totally accept that. Totally.
Question number 8.
Yay.
Let's go to Avi. Which words or phrases do you most overuse? Actually, maybe we should ask Robert.
It's good.
Avi.
Which words or phrases do I most overuse?
Overuse.
It's the Minnesotan in me, but like, yeah, no, it's all right. Yeah, no, it's all right. It kind of, yeah, no, it's all right. It just takes over everything, whether it's not all right or it is all right. It's kind of the blanket statement.
Okay.
Is that something you've heard him say often, Robert?
I don't know. Yeah.
What is yours?
What is the question again?
Which phrase do you most
Oh,
overuse?
yes. Well, this is what I had to ask again. I just turned 70 this year, and my memory for names is just outrageously bad. So I guess the word I use most is darling. I call people darling much too much because I can't remember.
Also, can I just say, I think Robert's answer should be, I just turned 70 this year.
So it's the modesty part, huh?
That's the one he says the most.
That's the excuse I use for everything.
I gotcha. So Robert, friends are precious. What do you value most in friends?
It changes over years, but since I turned 70, I think longevity and loyalty,
Longevity, they don't really have any say about that. That's not up to them, Robert.
No, but as you get older, people you've known for 50 years or more,
Right.
that history is sometimes more important than even the personality of the friend. A lot of friends, if you met them yesterday, you may not give them a second glance, but they carry your personal history with them and vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
They have to live long enough to earn the loyalty.
Yeah.
Avi, what about you?
I would say kindness and general openness.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you'll have a lot of actor friends then with openness.
Yes.
Not always kindness, but openness. Yeah.
No, I didn't say kindness. I said openness.
Clearly.
I was specific. So, guys, we're at our last question and we're like at our last minutes. I can't believe that the hour's just gone by so quickly. So, Grant,
we need
do
to
the
make
honors.
this a 2-hour interview.
We do. Do the honors, my sweetheart.
Question number 10, and I'm going to give it to Robert first.
Because he's 70 years old.
Because he's 70 and we need to rush this. If you were to die and come back as a person or a thing, what or who would it be?
I would want to be a famous cabaret star singer.
Oh, baby. Yes.
If there's a male Judy Garland, I'd want to be that.
Male Judy Garland.
Okay. We got
Avi,
you.
do you remember the question?
He's not 70 years old. It's okay.
I'm almost 30, Grant. My memory is a little. Can we just? Who would I come back as?
Who or what?
I think I'd want to come back. I mean, as a monkey, not like an orangutan.
Orangutan.
Like orangutan.
Why?
I could climb trees. I'm very strong, and I can throw my poop at people. It would just be a very enjoyable life.
Oh my gosh, now we're getting some real insight. It's like too much information. Avi, you're such an animal. I love it. Oh, this has been so much fun.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. And yeah, we've come up to the end of our hour, and it's been amazing and interesting and fascinating to speak
Thank
to you. And
you.
I so appreciate you making the time to speak to us all the way from Minnesota. I mean,
Yes, thank you very much. We
and
really
one more
appreciate it.
time, if the people who are watching, please go and see Avi's Operation Immigration, a truly wonderful story. And we will see you back next week. For those of you who want to stick around and chat, please feel free to do so. But this is the formal ending of the show.